Good morning and welcome to the 62nd commencement of Eckerd College. Would everyone please be seated? Today, we are honored to have a graduating senior, Christopher Schweithofer, begin our ceremony by reading the college's land acknowledgement statement. Chris is majoring in environmental studies and is from Montclair, New Jersey. Chris, please come forward.
Eckerd College celebrates the beautiful campus that it calls home and teaches the importance of environmental stewardship as a core value. An important part of this commitment is acknowledging the indigenous communities, past, present, and future, who are the traditional custodians of these lands and waterways. Eckerd College acknowledges that its campus lies within the traditional homelands of the Seminole, Miccosukee, and their ancestral groups whose history here stretches back more than 12,000 years. We recognize that the profound resilience of Seminole, Miccosukee, Choctaw, Cherokee, and other Native peoples who fought bravely to defend their homeland against powerful forces as a campus community. We commit to learning and teaching Native American history and cultural awareness, recognizing and honoring the presence of indigenous people and caring for the land that has become our home to the best of our ability. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Today, we are honored to have a group of graduating seniors perform the national anthem. Georgia Cox is majoring in psychology and animal studies and is from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Lila Blanchard is majoring in animal studies and psychology and is from Abington, Massachusetts. John Hilliard is majoring in marine science and is from Merrimack, New Hampshire. Emma Wynn is majoring in psychology and animal studies and is from Missouri City, Texas. Charlotte Zaccardi is majoring in music and is from Windward, Pennsylvania. And Connor Flynn is majoring in marine science and mathematics and is from Silver Spring, Maryland. Students, please come forward. Now, please stand as you are able for the national anthem, and please remain standing for the invocation.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars
Thank you all. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you. Our invocation will be offered by the Reverend Douglas McMahon, Eckerd College's Director for Spiritual Life and College Chaplain. Doug, please come forward.
Congratulations, class of 2025. In his memoir, In the Shelter, Irish poet Padraig Ó Tuama writes, "A name is only shorthand for something much bigger. Hello to the power of names." Please pray with me. O God of many names, today as we assemble in this massive tent along this beautiful waterfront, we focus on names, one at a time. And for a moment, it will be our name that is spoken out loud. We pray for our Dean of Faculty, who with all her heart wants to pronounce all of our names correctly. As our names are read, we are grateful for every person who supported us on our long journey to this joyful moment, whether they are here in person or in spirit or in some other way. We are surrounded by many loved ones and mentors who have had their names spoken out loud in previous decades by other deans of faculty, high school principals, or by someone, somewhere, on a very special day. Hello to the power of names. We invoke your name, O God of many names, only to recognize that you are already here in this place among our friends in the class of 2025 and the thousands of loved ones under this tent. Hello to the power of love. On this Eckerd College Commencement Sunday, we celebrate with much happiness the many accomplishments of our graduates. We take this commencement program in our hands and ask you to hold each of these names, O God, in your heart. Give each student courage to face the challenges of this new day, and we humbly ask that you shower your blessings on every one of us gathered here on this shoreline. Hear our prayer, O Holy One. Amen.
Many of you may not know that Doug McMahon, after 16 years of service, will be retiring next month. Doug, we're going to miss you. Thank you very much. Everyone, please be seated. To capture today's festivities, a professional photographer will take a photo of each graduate as the degree is conferred. Please allow everyone in the audience to enjoy the ceremony by remaining in your seat until the completion of the recessional at the end of the ceremony. Members of the class of 2025, this commencement ceremony, like everything else at Eckerd College, is arranged to be an educational event in your undergraduate experience. Today, the college will again display its values by what it honors and who it honors. Commencement is not simply about receiving a diploma, though it surely is about that. Commencement also is about telling the story anew, about the institution from which the diploma has been earned, and about the class that it is graduating. Let us begin by thanking the Eckerd College Board of Trustees for all they have done to build this outstanding college in the liberal arts tradition and for their unwavering support. Will the trustees who have joined us today please rise as you are able to be recognized? We also welcome the other distinguished members of the Platform Party for their participation in today's ceremony. Our commencement speaker and honorary degree recipient, Ms. Melissa Satius, the recipient of the Distinguished Helmart E. Nielsen Medal, Mr. Miles Collier, honorary degree recipients, President Emeritus Dr. Donald R. Eastman III and Mrs. Christine McKinnon Eastman, the Chair of the Board of Trustees, Mr. Ian Johnson, members of executive staff, and my colleagues, Vice President for Academic Affairs and Dean of Faculty, Dr. Christine Woolley, and Vice President for Student Success, Dr. Marjorie Sanfilippo. Now, let me ask the distinguished and dedicated members of the Eckerd College faculty, the very embodiment of Eckerd College, to stand as you are able so that we might thank you for the labor and devotion that have made this day possible. Faculty, please rise. Thank you. Please be seated. Let us also take a moment to thank the staff of the college, the facilities, dining, and housekeeping staff, and all the other staff here today who have supported students in their work and in their play at Eckerd College. Thank you all. This day would not be possible without the support, emotional, spiritual, and financial, of the families and friends of our graduates today. Will the family members and friends of our students please rise as you are able so we might recognize and applaud your love and unwavering support. Thank you. Please be seated. Eckerd College class of 2025, you students who graduate today came to us in the midst of a global pandemic, arriving on campus for autumn term in August 2021 and taking up residence on a campus governed by new rules and policies aimed at ensuring the safety of our community. In the face of the challenges of the pandemic, you adapted, and indeed you thrived. You have not only excelled academically on campus, but you also have trekked the mountains of Chile and studied the tropical forests of Thailand. You have worked with dolphins in Curacao and ridden camels in Morocco. You have carried out service projects all over Tampa Bay, and indeed all over the world. You have carried out hundreds of rescues each year at sea through XR and responded compassionately to hundreds of medical emergencies each year through ESERT. You have won Fulbright fellowships and Hollings scholarships and so much more. You soon will begin careers in a world characterized by war, violence, and injustice, a world that is in great need of your talent and knowledge and energy. You leave here to conduct research, to address social, political, scientific, and environmental challenges, to attend law school and medical school and graduate school. You will become engineers, teachers, entrepreneurs, oceanographers, counselors, artists, and scientists. And you will assume leadership positions in your jobs and in your communities. At the end of this ceremony, you will march off to show the world that Eckerd College changes lives and Eckerd College graduates change the world. Class of 2025, please stand as you are able so we can recognize your enormous achievements and your great promise. Please be seated, friends. Please welcome now to the podium the chairperson of the Eckerd College Board of Trustees, Mr. Ian Johnson, class of 1989. Ian?
President Anarelli, Dr. Woolley, Dr. Sanfilippo, Ms. Melissa Satius, Mr. Miles Collier, Dr. Donald and Mrs. Christine Eastman, faculty, staff, families, guests, and graduates of the class of 2025, as chair of the Eckerd College Board of Trustees, I bring you greetings and congratulations on behalf of the board. And what a great pleasure it is. Yesterday afternoon, on the recommendation of your faculty, the Board of Trustees granted the awarding of 497 bachelor's degrees. No other action required of the Board of Trustees brings as much pleasure as the granting of degrees each May. The members of the board who are here with you today are honored to have the privilege of being the first to congratulate you as you cross the stage later in the ceremony this morning. We will see each one of you soon at the top of the stairs. Once again, congratulations, graduates of the class of 2025.
Thank you, Ian. Elected and honored by the class of 2025 to bring greetings to you this morning is Anna Randall. Anna comes from Lake Forest, Illinois, and is graduating with a double major in theater and communication. Please join me in a warm welcome for Anna.
Good morning. Welcome to our honored guests, amazing staff, esteemed faculty, devoted family and friends, and the remarkable class of 2025. It is an honor to have been chosen to stand before you all today. A very inspiring person once shared with me that there is nothing louder than the silence where thanks should be. So, my fellow almost graduates, please join me in a round of rapturous applause and cheering to show our gratitude for the Eckerd administration, staff, and faculty for their efforts and guidance that helped us get to this moment. We're not done yet. Please also join me with more rapturous applause in appreciating the efforts of our families and friends who inspired and supported us in order for us to be here today. I would like to begin today by taking us back to autumn term. Don't worry, I'm not going to quiz you on why fish don't exist. But I want you to recall the 3 questions we all asked each other in our first few months of our Eckerd experience. Those questions were, what is your name? What is your area of study? And where are you from? Those 3 questions began to transform us from a group of strangers into a community based on our shared experiences. Over the past several weeks, I've asked many of you what Eckerd experiences had the most profound impact on you during your time here. Because of those conversations, I've concluded that there are 25 things that made our experience at Eckerd so memorable. So, in the 3 minutes I have left, I am going to try and highlight the 25 most important and special parts of Eckerd, with your help. If you hear an experience you relate to or remember fondly, I encourage you to make some noise. Clap, yell, cheer. I know you all can do it because I've heard you loud and proud every Saturday right here on Kappa Field. Does that sound like something we can do? Here we go. First, we made friends, formed connections, and created a vibrant community based on our shared passions for the environment, social justice, and dancing in the moonlight. We shared meals together, whether it be fries from the pub, a croissant from Starbucks, or a late night snack from the Glizzy Guys. As we got older and bolder, we ran around campus barefoot, expertly dodged the sprinklers, and spent many lazy afternoons laying out on South Beach. In the classroom, we benefited from the small class sizes as we cultivated connections with our remarkable professors and peers. Some of you studied marine biology, others visual arts or human development or a plethora of other majors that Eckerd offered us. But even though we all dove into our own special interests, there's one thing that we all learned, that a spiral is a line. Outside of class, we took advantage of the many educational opportunities and resources provided to us, all the while still pulling the occasional all-nighter in the library or the lounges. But all that hard work paid off when we finally had the free time to go outside and appreciate our beautiful campus. We did this by paddleboarding, spending time at the farm, or going to Cheese Club events. And when many hurricanes came knocking on our shore, the Eckerd community stayed resilient and united. When we finally came back to campus, we supported each other the best way we knew how, by continuing to go to each other's sporting events, plays and musicals, and all the other campus activities that we could pack into the semester. Because of Eckerd, we made friendships that will last a lifetime, while also spending time with the many furry, feathered, and scaly friends that are abundant on campus. On Saturday, we watched rugby games, rode yellow bikes, and jumped off the pier more times than we can count. But what's one more time, right? Over the past 4 years, we lived vibrant, exciting, and unique lives here, all based on Eckerd's 2 mottos. Think outside and, say it with me, keep Eckerd weird. I think we got all 25. These 25 shared experiences shaped us into the remarkable class of 2025. After today, we will continue to have one more shared experience. When someone asks you, where are you from, or where did you go to school, we will all have the same answer, Eckerd College. I want to end with a quote from the poet and civil rights activist Maya Angelou. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. One day, some of the experiences we had at Eckerd may fade from our memories, but we will always remember how Eckerd made us feel. And that is what I urge you to take with you after today. Take that feeling you get when you watch sunset on South Beach or when you find a yellow bike when you're late for class and spread that feeling. The world needs more people who radiate those good feelings, and Eckerd taught us to be just that. So, take those wonderful Eckerd feelings and go make the world a better and brighter place. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Anna. During her time as an Eckerd student studying history, Melissa Seixas had already begun the career path that would bring her here today as this year's commencement speaker. In 1986, Melissa joined Florida Power, later to become Progress Energy and then Duke Energy, in the distribution engineering area. What she initially saw as competing interests of history and engineering combined in her work with Duke, a story that embodies the life-changing nature of a liberal arts education. Today, Melissa is Duke Energy's state president in Florida, serving approximately 2 million electric retail customers in Central Florida, including St. Petersburg, Clearwater, and the greater Orlando area. She is responsible for the performance of Duke Energy's regulated utility in Florida and for managing state and local regulatory and governmental relations and community affairs. Over her 39-year career with the company, she has served in numerous roles with increasing leadership responsibilities. Prior to assuming her current position in February 2021, Melissa served as Vice President of Government and Community Relations in Florida. She directed efforts to strengthen relationships with local municipal, community, and civic organizations, as well as business leaders throughout the company's 35-county service area. Her team worked closely with leaders to help communities achieve their energy growth and sustainability goals. Melissa graduated from Eckerd in 1992 with a BA in American History, where her mentor was Professor Carolyn Johnston. She went on to earn a master's degree in American history from the University of South Florida, and she has completed certificates from Johns Hopkins University, Yale University, and Georgetown University. Melissa has a strong tradition of supporting her community. She currently serves on the boards of directors for the Florida Chamber of Commerce, Florida Electric Power Coordinating Group, the Tampa Bay Partnership Council of Governors, and as a member of the Florida Council of 100. She also has served as a member of the Board of Trustees and chair of the University of South Florida St. Petersburg Campus Board. Melissa was named to Tampa Bay Business Journal's Power 100 and one of Florida Trend's 500 most influential leaders. She is a recipient of the 2022 Arts Advocate of the Year Award presented by the St. Petersburg Arts Alliance. Melissa truly exemplifies an alumna who is changing the world. It is a privilege and an honor to welcome her home to Eckerd and to this podium to address the Eckerd College class of 2025. Melissa?
Well, good morning, Eckerd College graduates, families, friends, faculty, staff, and Board of Trustees. What an absolute beautiful day to celebrate this extraordinary class of 2025. And a heartfelt thanks to President Anarelli for inviting me and including my husband Greg and son Jack, who are here with us today. It is an especially meaningful weekend as we are also on Friday evening, my mentor and advisor, Professor Carolyn Johnston, was honored for her extraordinary contributions to Eckerd College, the field of history, and the countless lives that she has touched along the way. She is truly a gift. And as an alumna of Eckerd College, being your commencement speaker today feels somewhat surreal. Never did I think that I would hear the words or the question, would you like to be Eckerd College commencement speaker for 2025? Nor did I expect in February of 2021 to hear the words, Melissa, you're going to be the next president of Duke Energy Florida. And people will often ask me, how did I plan to become a utility president? Especially when they find out I am not an engineer, I'm not an accountant, and I'm not an attorney. I am a proud historian. And I can tell you this with absolute certainty, there was no plan. There was no vision board or 10-step strategy. But what I did have was Eckerd College. My experience here shaped me in so many ways. It has shaped how I lead, how I serve customers, communities, and how I think about building a cleaner energy future. It taught me how to listen, to collaborate, problem solve, and lead with curiosity, and I carry those with me every single day. There is nothing about my upbringing that would have led someone to say, wow, you know, I really think she's going to lead an electric utility one day. My mother was born deep in the Amazon interior of Brazil, in the state of Pará. She was one of 9 children. She arrived in the US as a 19-year-old, and she came here to work as a maid. She didn't speak English, but she had grit, determination, and an unshakable will to build a better life. My father, in contrast, was a US Army colonel and an attorney, and as white Anglo-Saxon Protestant as they come. So to say that they came from different worlds is a complete understatement. So I grew up knowing that not everyone shared the same story. While a lot of my friends spent Saturdays going to organized recreational camps and sports, I was at very long, lively lunches with big groups of Brazilians, most not related by blood, but bound by culture, food, and community. My mom gave me a love of cooking and music and people, and from my dad, I inherited a passion for history. By third grade, I was watching the nightly news with him, and at that time, I wasn't sure whether it was better to be a boy or a girl because I thought all boys go to war and girls have to have babies. This was kind of my worldview at that age, growing up in the shadow of Vietnam. Living at home with two vastly different parents, I quickly learned no two backgrounds are the same. It sparked a curiosity about the past and the influence on the future. And that early awareness became my foundation and profound love, appreciation, and respect for the field of history. In 1977, we moved here from Baltimore, and the city was a much, much different place than it is now. I don't ever really remember going to downtown St. Pete, with the exception of my high school graduation from Northeast at what was then Bayfront Center, which is now the Mahaffey Theater, at the Duke Energy Center for the Arts. But 2 years later, my dad passed away. My mother didn't drive, and I am convinced to this day that there are people alive because she was not allowed to drive or couldn't drive. And she didn't really know how to manage the finances. So by 14, I was writing the checks for her to sign for the mortgage, and I was signing these checks before I could even vote. So let me share just a little story about how life events, no matter how far apart, can weave together in an unexpected and meaningful way. At one point, when I was about 14, our power was cut for non-payment. And I found myself calling Florida Power Corporation, the very same company I lead today, to speak to a customer service representative. And I explained that English was not my mother's first language. She was uncomfortable talking to anyone at the company. And I had to promise and explain to them that her Army pension check and Social Security check were on the way and that we would pay the bill. The representative's kindness left such a lasting impression on me. It was more than just a moment of empathy. It was a lesson in the power of service and the impact of simple human decency. That experience has shaped my approach throughout my career, reinforcing my unwavering belief that every customer we serve and every property owner we encounter deserves to be treated with respect and dignity. In high school, I started to develop a strong interest in drafting and technical drawing, but my commitment to staying close to home for my mom shifted me away from applying to engineering school. So at 19, while attending St. Pete Junior College, I started working in the drafting department at Florida Power Corporation. And when I transferred to Eckerd College to major in American history, I worked part-time and continued mapping the poles and wires that make up our electric distribution system. It was the perfect combination, a hands-on technical experience paired with the critical thinking and broader worldview that I was building through a liberal arts education. As I unraveled the complexities of the electric grid, my classes in the Reformation, women's studies, Russian and Soviet history, English literature, African American history, and Latin American politics shaped my perspective. These courses didn't just inform me, they transformed how I see systems of power, resilience, and change, and it sharpened my ability to recognize the intricate forces that shape the world. My time at Eckerd College emboldened me to express my thoughts. It honed my ability to see world events, local dynamics, and personal perspectives through a much wider and discerning lens. I learned to articulate my position with thoughtful precision, less reactionary, more reasoned. But even more than that, my time here at Eckerd College helped me to realize that this expanded perspective was just the beginning of a lifelong journey of learning. And that journey continues today. I learn a dozen new things a day in the rapidly changing world of energy, and more often than not, continue to uncover some things about myself. It's a constant refinement of what makes life meaningful and fun. It reframes my focus on those around me. And of the many things I've learned to truly grasp the gift of living this life that we've all been given, through hard times and good times, you have to walk through the storm. You can't go around it. And on the other side, that's where gratitude starts to take root. And these are just a few of the lessons that I credit to Eckerd College. Once I completed my undergraduate, I entered into the MA program at the University of South Florida. And as I neared completion of that program, I applied for a full-time job within the company in our consumer affairs group. And during the second or third interview, I was to meet with the department director. I walked into his office. He was standing up, rifling through a cabinet, looking for something that must have been very important because he did not ask me to sit down. Finally, he looked up at me and he said, "Well, you have the job, but I have one question. Why did you major in history?" And that was the first time I gave the answer that I have now repeated for over 30 years. A liberal arts education gives you a unique perspective. It teaches you how to analyze, connect the dots, think creatively. It helps you to understand people, assemble world-class teams like the one that I'm privileged to work with each day, and how to process complexities, communicate ideas, essential skills when your job is to power the lives of millions of people. And the same is true for you as you head off either to a new job, to graduate school, or decide to take time to evaluate what comes next. Your life is going to take unexpected turns. You will switch paths, you're gonna hit guardrails, you're gonna pivot, but through it all, your Eckerd education will remain a part of you, grounding you in ways that you may not even realize at this time. Beyond the warm sunshine, the unmatched beauty of this waterfront, and the lifelong friends that you've made, you will carry an openness with you that will encourage you to experiment. You'll have a sharpened ability to critically analyze and a deep understanding of competing perspectives, qualities, no matter where your life takes you. So one lesson that I took from Eckerd College was the value of keeping a commonplace book. And I don't know if that is still part of any of the coursework, but it's basically a note of quotes, thoughts, lists, anything meaningful that crosses your mind. Today, I still keep this book, or a form of it, and I call it Speak Plainly. It is a reminder to myself that in a world of sound bites and jargons and acronyms, how important it is to choose words with intention. I jot down ideas from podcasts, novels, historical research, even Dove chocolate bars. And one of the most meaningful ones that I had after probably my 5th chocolate of the morning was be brave enough to be bad at something. And I'll give you an example. I stink at technology. I can barely turn on my iPad without somebody helping me, it seems like. But last week during a dinner at a St. Pete restaurant, I could not manage somehow to pay the valet through my app. The young man was very kind and offered to do it for me because I'm sure it was very painful for him to watch me try to take a picture and scan the QR code and such. And so when I gave him my email address, he asked me, he's like, "Well, what do you do and how do you get a job there at Duke Energy?" And I went into my "I'm a history major" speech and mentioned that I went to Eckerd College. And as it turns out, he's a junior here at Eckerd. Further proof that the universe always returns me to Eckerd College in ways large and small. So I have just 4 things to leave with you that I've come to live by, and maybe they will mean something to all of you. First, don't chase perfection in every aspect of your life. It stifles joy and spontaneity. In my industry, perfection can mean the difference between life and death when you are working with energized electrical lines. But in that field, that's where it matters. But outside of that, give yourself room to explore, to stumble, to grow. Everyone's definition of perfection varies. And trying to be everything to everyone all the time is just an impossible burden. There's always going to be somebody smarter, faster, better looking, more polished. That's perfectly okay. So let go of the pressure and allow yourself the freedom to be human. And second, whatever job you have, do your very best. Someone will notice, but more importantly, you will. Every experience adds to who you are and what you're able to bring to the table, and you'll also figure out what you don't want to do. You have a lifetime ahead of you to try things, learn things, fall short, and to fall in love with something completely unexpected. And the third, and I mean this truly from the bottom of my heart, be kind to yourselves. You are so worth it. And finally, a quote that I've taken straight from my Commonplace book, and I just love this. Don't take criticism from somebody you would not take advice from. So congratulations, class of 2025. May your journeys be bold, your impact lasting, and your joy absolutely undeniable. I am incredibly proud of every single one of you.
I am pleased and proud to announce that at its meeting that concluded yesterday, the Eckerd College Board of Trustees elected Melissa to board membership. Welcome home, Melissa.
It is customary at commencement services in American colleges and universities to recognize distinguished individuals with honorary degrees. Eckerd College takes pleasure in so recognizing today 3 extraordinary individuals. Mr. President, it is my honor to present to you Melissa Satius to receive the honorary degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa.
For pursuing a greater understanding of American history with your Eckerd College Bachelor of Arts degree and subsequent University of South Florida master's degree. For your dedicated career with Duke Energy over almost 4 decades, beginning in distribution engineering of Florida Power in 1986 and rising through the ranks as the company became Progress Energy and then Duke Energy to the role of state president in 2021. For your leadership when Duke service areas experienced the devastation of hurricanes and other natural disasters, ensuring communities have their power restored quickly and safely. For seeking to prevent brain drain in the Tampa Bay region by encouraging college graduates to stay in the area after they graduate and use their skills locally. For sharing your story as a devoted partner and source of support for your husband, Greg, during his pancreatic cancer battle, inspiring and supporting others affected by cancer. For your service to the greater community, your active membership on numerous boards and councils, and your recognition through multiple civic, cultural, and leadership awards. For being an articulate spokesperson for a liberal arts education as an excellent preparation for life and career, and for advocating for wide applications of the humanities and liberal arts through your example. Now, therefore, Eckerd College is proud to confer on its beloved alumna, Melissa Seixas, class of 1992, the degree Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa.
Mr. President, it is my honor to present to you Christine McKinnon Eastman to receive the honorary degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa.
Christine, would you please come forward? For your nearly 2 decades of service as Eckerd College's First Lady, alongside your husband, Donald R. Eastman III, but also as a leader of this campus in your own right, for the care you displayed to students every day, attending everything from classroom presentations to winter term trips to commencement ceremonies. For your tireless work to advance the priorities of the college as evidenced through the more than 400 events you hosted at the President's residence, on campus, and abroad. For supporting 22 students and counting through the scholarship in your name, which through its endowment will enable students to access an Eckerd education in perpetuity. For your dedication to improving both the natural beauty and interior aesthetics of Eckerd's campus through your love for beautiful places and your excellent taste in art. For serving the world in your previous career as an elementary school teacher, molding young minds and raising up future leaders. For your love for Eckerd College, not required through any formal job description or role, but freely offered from your heart. Now, therefore, Eckerd College is proud to confer on its esteemed former First Lady, Christine McKinnon Eastman, the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, honoris causa.
Mr. President, it is my honor to present to you President Emeritus Dr. Donald R. Eastman III to receive the honorary degree of Doctor of Laws, honoris causa.
Don, please join us at the podium. For answering the call during Eckerd College's search for its fourth president in 2001, a very challenging time in the college's history, and serving faithfully in that role for 19 years until your retirement in 2020. For being the steady hand on the tiller as the college navigated rough waters, rallying the support of the Board of Trustees, alumni, faculty, staff, and friends to raise more than $208 million during your time as president. For your appreciation for the past, vision for the future, and commitment to community as displayed through numerous strategic and master planning processes. For creating a brand for Eckerd College that rose above the competition and inspired students, faculty, and staff to join our vibrant academic community. For devoting yourself to the personal, social, educational, spiritual, and physical well-being of each Eckerd student, earning their reverence and affection. For your support of the faculty and the academic program, including the construction of a new library, science, and arts buildings, along with the development of new degree programs. For meeting head-on existential threats to the college posed by tropical storms, hurricanes, pandemics, and more. For your dedication to transforming a sandspur-covered campus into the beautiful, lush landscape that Eckerd College is known for to this day, planting nearly 1,000 trees, creating South Beach, establishing the Iota Residence Complex, Go Pavilion, the Palm Hammock, and Doyle Sailing Center, renovating Wireman Chapel, the Legacy Residence Halls, and the Sheen Center, and conserving mangroves and other native species. For your contributions to the world and to scholarship through your vocation as a bow tie-wearing poet. Now, therefore, Eckerd College is proud to confer on its revered fourth president, Dr. Donald R. Eastman III, the degree Doctor of Laws honoris causa. The Helmar E. Nielsen Medal is the highest honor bestowed on an individual by Eckerd College and recognizes those who have demonstrated exceptional devotion to the college and to its mission of undergraduate liberal arts education through extraordinary service, advocacy, and generosity. It is named in honor of the late trustee emeritus, Helmar Nielsen, who was the inaugural recipient of this distinguished medal last year. This year's recipient is Trustee Emeritus Miles C. Collier. Miles believes in building lasting cultural legacies that can be used to inform future generations. Ever passionate about education, he has been an unwavering supporter of Eckerd College since he joined the board in 1988. For 14 years during his time on the board, Miles served as chair and led the charge to encourage his fellow trustees to set a philanthropic example through their own giving at pivotal points for the college. He and his wife, Parker, contributed $25 million for a challenge gift during the Many Experiences, One Spirit campaign in 2006. The Collier Match, as it became known, inspired 10,680 community members to give to Eckerd's largest comprehensive campaign that raised $85.6 million. Miles' other great passion has been the world of historically significant automobiles. He is the founder and benefactor of Revs Institute in Naples, Florida. This museum and research center is regarded as one of the most important repositories of automobiles and automotive resources in the world. It is devoted to the contextualization and study of the motor car as one of the most significant and transformative technologies of the 20th century and as a vital legacy artifact of today's modern industrialized civilization. In 2022, Miles released his groundbreaking book on automobiles as material culture, as seen through the lens of archaeology, a book entitled The Archaeological Automobile. In addition to being acknowledged globally as an authority on historic automobiles, Miles is a philanthropist, an investor, and a practicing artist. At Yale University, he completed a bachelor's degree in painting. He subsequently earned his MBA from Columbia University and spent over 25 years as the managing partner of Collier Enterprises. After retiring from Collier Enterprises, Miles entered the New York Studio School of Drawing, Painting, and Sculpture, where he studied painting for 3 years with the noted Graham Nixon. In 2019, he taught an Eckerd winter term entitled Experiments in Perception, which aimed to teach students how to record a visual experience in a coherent and comprehensible and rigorous manner. Miles C. Collier is an advocate of self-reliance and lifelong learning, and a believer in the free agency of all individuals. His 37 years of service and philanthropy to Eckerd College have left an indelible mark on this institution. Now, therefore, Eckerd College is proud to bestow upon its beloved Trustee Emeritus Miles C. Collier the Helmar E. Nielsen Medal with the affection, admiration, and gratitude of the entire Eckerd community. Miles, please come forward. is customary at the Eckerd College commencement to honor those seniors who have been selected by the faculty to receive special awards. I now invite Vice President for Student Success, Dr. Marjorie Sanfilippo, to the podium to call 4 of those seniors to this platform to receive their awards and your applause. Dr. Sanfilippo.
The Philip J. Lee Honor Award is awarded to the senior student whose scholarly achievements have demonstrated both exceptional accomplishment and superior promise. This year's recipient is from Los Alamos, New Mexico, and will graduate with majors in biology, chemistry, and mathematics. The 2025 Philip J. Lee Honor Award recipient is Karen Eby. The James H. Robinson Award is presented to a senior student who has contributed significantly to the experience of underrepresented students and to a fuller appreciation of cross-cultural values throughout the whole of Eckerd community. This year's recipient is from Austin, Texas, and graduates with a major in marine science and a minor in marketing. The 2025 James H. Robinson Award recipient is Helena Bertha Lewis. The Ronald Wilson Memorial Award is presented to a senior student who has made a significant contribution to the college community through academics, student government, and other campus organizations. This year's recipient is from Williamstown, New Jersey, and will graduate with majors in environmental studies and management with minors in French and leadership studies. The 2025 Ronald Wilson Memorial Award recipient is Hannah Lee Towers. The Miller Award is presented to the senior student whose life activities exemplify the ideal of unselfish and public-spirited service to the community, off campus as well as on campus. This year's recipient comes from Abington, Massachusetts, and graduates with majors in psychology and animal studies with a minor in Spanish. The 2025 Miller Award recipient is Lila Sullivan Blanchard.
Mr. President, the Robert A. Staub Distinguished Teacher Award emphasizes the primary importance of teaching in the college, recognizes teaching excellence in an individual faculty member, and encourages the pursuit of teaching excellence by the faculty as a whole. The Robert A. Staub Distinguished Teacher Award is presented this year to Lisa Bonner. Lisa, please join us on stage. for teaching over 1,000 students, often in one of the hardest classes they'll encounter as undergraduates, and for centering student learning in those courses, an approach to rigor which has earned her many accolades and much praise from her students. For transforming the chemistry classroom through her exceptional creativity and steadfast commitment to innovative pedagogy, and for showing students why a liberal arts approach to the study of science matters. For her stalwart support of general education through her first-year experience, reflective service learning, global perspective, and writing-intensive courses in which she serves as a role model for the kind of rigorous, interdisciplinary team teaching that makes the classroom electric for both students and instructors. For her inspirational work with our next generation of scientists who have learned about chemistry through hands-on experiments that make science accessible, and for showing Eckerd students that teaching and community engagement matters by bringing them into elementary school classrooms. For wielding her organizational powers for good, be it in class, on Moodle, or on the faculty coordinating committee, and for mentoring those who share her commitment to student learning and excellent teaching through her work with Phi Beta Kappa and the American Chemical Society. I like that. For her dedication to better learning assessments, including the development of a national standardized organic chemistry exam, and her collaboration with experts in chemical education across the nation to support student learning. For her leadership on the Eckerd College campus, within the Natural Sciences Collegium, and among the faculty of her home discipline, and for the many ways she strives for excellence every day. Eckerd College presents the Robert A. Staub Distinguished Teacher Award to Lisa Bonner, Assistant Professor of Chemistry. Mr. President, the John Satterfield Outstanding Mentor Award is named in honor of a beloved member of the founding faculty. This award honors the special and vital role of the mentor in a student's life at Eckerd. The selection of the recipient is based on the impact on students the mentor has had in the areas of academic programming, career planning, and personal growth. The John Satterfield Outstanding Mentor Award is presented this year to Professor Diana Fugit. Diana, please join us on stage. For your profound understanding of what makes a liberal arts education from Eckerd College so powerful, and for your ability to communicate that power to students. For your dedication to your many mentees and your conscientious approach to mentoring in economics and beyond. For supporting students' desire to improve by working closely with students in economics, environmental studies, and animal studies. For mentoring undergraduate research in and out of the classroom by working with students completing their comprehensive examinations in economics, and by employing students as research assistants for your projects. For helping Eckerd faculty to be better mentors to their students by serving as a resource, a model, and an advocate for excellent mentoring. For mentoring behavioral sciences faculty through the stages of tenure and promotion, and for guiding countless faculty through successful careers at Eckerd and beyond. For your steadfast devotion to the college, and for your willingness to use your deep well of institutional knowledge to ask how we might do more, do better, and grow stronger for our students, and for inspiring your colleagues and your students with your love of Eckerd College. Eckerd College presents the John Satterfield Outstanding Mentor Award to Diana Fugit, Professor of Economics. Mr. President, it is my honor to present to you the candidates who have fulfilled all requirements as determined by the faculty for the degree of Bachelor of Arts. Will the candidates please rise? Candidates rise.
Ready? By the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees and the State of Florida, I hereby confer upon you the degree Bachelor of Arts with all the rights and privileges appertaining thereto. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Please move your tassel to the left and be seated. Mr. President, it is my honor to present to you the candidates who have fulfilled all requirements as determined by the faculty for the degree of Bachelor of Science. Will the candidates please rise?
By the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees and the State of Florida, I hereby confer upon you the Bachelor of Science degree with all the rights and privileges appertaining thereto. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Please move your tassel to the left and be seated. Mr. President, it is my honor to present to you the candidates who have fulfilled all requirements as determined by the faculty for the degree of Bachelor of Fine Arts. Will the candidates please rise?
By the authority vested in me by the Board of Trustees and the State of Florida, I hereby confer upon you the Bachelor of Fine Arts degree with all the rights and privileges appertaining thereto. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Please move your tassel to the left and be seated. As the marshals guide you, will the graduates please come forward to accept your degrees? The answer is yes. All right. I'm ready. Gavin Malone Acree. Samuel Ambrose Adams. Savannah Rose Elizio. Jeannie Frida Alva. Erin Yelena Amis. Kaylin Dinoputruth Anderson. High honors. Olivia Shannon Armstrong. Eric Asakura. Caitlin Nicole Bayer. Edgar Griffin Bradley Baker. Savannah Rose Batrial, high honors. Cameron Mariah Butiki. Peyton Judith Beaver, honors. Ellie Gardner Becker. Dominique Catherine Beek. Julia Christine Byler. Michelle Arlene Benitez. Jaden Joanna Bierman, high honors. Abigail Margaret Elizabeth Bulelo. That's okay. Emma Catherine Binzer. Lila Sullivan Blanchard, high honors. Riley Alexandra Bloom. Zane Michael Bolger. Sophia Grace Bond. Ansley Claire Bossert, high honors. Alec Gabriel Brandman. Max Evans Brasso, honors. Yannick Bringle, high honors. Catherine Jean Brown, high honors. Miriam Mabella Brown. Joseph Bryceland. Chance Morgan Bucher, high honors. Caroline Ridgely Bunker. Lily Ching Campagna. Jordan Faith Marie Congro, honors. Grace Lavinia Carrington, high honors. Emma Dale Carter, high honors. Taylin Holloway Chambers, high honors. Adam W. Charenson. Elena Elizabeth Christ. Ava Rose Chambriello. Nicole Craig Clack. Nicholas James Eraldi Clancy. Nora Rose Calusi Estes. Lauren Arlene Kunili. Brenna Helena Kunili. Colin Jennings Connor. William Max Couch III. Claire Sophia Coyle. Bobby Kenneth Chris. Ella Louise Crosby, honors. Amanda M. Crossan, high honors. Rachel Marcela Cuevas. Shane Patrick Darby. Alexandra Rose Datesman, high honors. Paige Mackenzie Davenport. Quentin Eugene Deckard, high honors. Sophia Ruth Del Regno. Manuela Delgado. Anna Victoria DiMartini, high honors. Rachel Elizabeth Demers, honors. Madison Christine DeVore, high honors. Alexandra Naili Dukes. Eleutherius Aiden Demakis, honors. Shannon Kathleen Dooley. Emma Nicole Dowell. Kaylee Michelle Douthit. Kendall Alexandra Drummond. Karen Duncan, honors. Catherine Josephine Duval, honors. Laura Madison Enid Eid, high honors. Elise Rose Island. Natalie Outlaw Ellenthal. Erilyn Jade Ellis, honors. Louis Everett Epley III. Sandra Louise Erickson. Zachary Kyle Irvin Ian. Erin Brianna Fagan, high honors. Jonathan Felva Hansen, high honors. Jillian Alexandra Feehan, high honors. Jesus Manuel Ferris Aguayo. Fernando Fernandez Guzman V. Isabel Inez Acosta Figueiredo. Gavin Robert Jean Filmer. Kira Sky Taylor Fink, high honors. Caitlin Elizabeth Flagel. Bailey Floden. Morgan Grace Freeling, honors. Lane Thomas Funneman. Kent Xavier Gerard. Ariana Ray Gardiner. Brianna Bell Garofalo, high honors. Erin Maureen Gar, high honors. Sophie Nell Gavin. Madison Calloway Gly, high honors. Shelby Marie Goodman. Anastasia Rosine Goshorn. Nathaniel Jones Goucher. Sunny Artemis Gray, high honors. Emily Morgan Graylis. Phil Greninger. Alexa Gail Grund. Juliana Guardiola. Colleen May Hall. Carrie Hajime Harding. Thomas George Harrison. Taylor Nicole Hemingway, high honors. Mitchell J. Hinnenberry. Ashley Elizabeth Hennessy. Eleanor Bowen Henry, high honors. Haven Ingrid Henry, honors. Rachel Louise Herman, high honors. Adam Brian Hill. Ethan Michael Hubler. Lael Hudson. Kylie Ann Hudson. Sierra Brooke Hudson. Amanda Elizabeth Jennings, high honors. Molly Ann Jennings, honors. Eric Lewis Jensen. Amelia Eve Johnson, honors. Aja Tanae Jones. Caitlin Linda Juarez, high honors. Kaylee Nicole Kappas. Sarah Patricia Kozertsky. Cable Fry Kaufman. Hannah Grace Keltner. Amelia May Kennedy, high honors. Evelyn Rose Kennedy. Mary Angelina Kennedy. Seville Amber Kerner. Chloe Kathleen Catchum. Cassie Marie Kimbangsa, honors. Cassandra Rose Eleanor Keelty. Juliana Elizabeth Kinzer, honors. Kellen Kirkpatrick McMullen. Rick Koch Johansson, high honors. Leo Xavier Koo. Haley Ray Ann Korean. Honors. Jordan Thomas Kwasinski. Caroline Grace Lamburn. Addison Brianne Langston. Alexis Lariviere, high honors. Charlotte Louise Latham, honors. John Albert Latham. Sophia Grace Latham. Logan Bryce Levine. Aiden Thomas Leake. Michael Christopher Lee, high honors. Kayla Marie Leefook. Troy Morrow Leslie. Emma Boyce Lewis, high honors. Jade Christopher Lewis. Reed Peter Lyle, honors. Jordan Lily Malice, honors. Caitlin Faith Malone. Emily Lauren Martinez. Shane McCahey, honors. Brian Tyler McClintock. Lydia Catherine McClure. Levi Amelia McCollum, high honors. Charlotte Grace McNeil, honors. Olivia Blue Mendoza, high honors. Cassidy Lynn Miles Coleman, honors. Victor Henry Milton, honors. Gretchen Claire Montgomery. Mateo Joseph Morello, honors. Carter Thomas Morin, honors. Grace Elizabeth Moschetto. Jordan Christine Moses. Hannah Jean Mosher, high honors. Mackenzie Eve Murphy, honors. Samuel Nwembre Musangai, honors. Benjamin Edward Dwayne Nash. Piper L. Negard, honors. Emma Faith Wynn, honors. Allie Marie Nielsen. Jordan Alina Nilobuski. Daniel Jackson Norval. Ava Grace Nunciato, high honors. Elizabeth Tuttle Nycannon. Kaylee Michelle O'Brien, honors. Anna Lisa O'Reilly, honors. Guadalupe Maria Abaji. Jackson Ezra Cole Olson, high honors. Maria Elizabeth Olson. Ellery K. Overstreet, honors. Brandon Alexander Panfill, high honors. Max Morgan Pantoja. Pearl Partridge, honors. Bodie Ty Paulson Sutton. Celeste Abigail Paltry. Catherine Lauren Paxton. China Rose Perez. Makai Javon Perry. Jamie Peterson, high honors. Leah Taylor Peterson, high honors. Tyler Nicholas Peterson, honors. Zoe Rhiannon Pittman. Isaiah Placid. Nadia Noel Placati, high honors. Ariana Mulan Polisella. Owen Lee Pope, honors. Jerry Ann Poston, high honors. Holly Hall Quillian. Erin Donna Kathleen Quinn. Anna June Randall, honors. Molly Catherine Ramo, honors. Olivia Roisin Regan. Griffin Davis Richardson. Stella Campbell Robson. Emma Catherine Rodriguez. Gage Tito Rodriguez. Luciano Tomas Rodriguez Silvara, honors. Nick James Romanolo. Nayeli Ann Rosado, high honors. Rocky Joseph Rosario. Casey Ann Sammons, high honors. Mitchell Satin. John Wilfred Saxton, high honors. Ollie Jean Scannell. Samuel Edward Schmidt Hansen, honors. Sonia Shuk, high honors. Sophia Catherine Schulenberg, high honors. Lily Dunbar Schwartz, high honors. Christopher John Schwighofer. Lynn Scott, honors. Emilia Lee Seaver, high honors. Ava Amelie Shepard Cano, high honors. Elena Estefania Enright Shepard. James Francis Sherlock. Nicholas Thomas Sillard, honors. Tiffany Leanne Silva. Emma Lynn Silvani. Claire Emma Smith. Emma Lou Smith, high honors. Maya Soligo, honors. Hunter Jade Suvanarath. Russell Clarkson Sparks. Lucrezia Speranza, high honors. Ben Franco Steele, honors. Maxwell Graham Steinberg, Sr. Carolina Steinley. Sarah Leora Stevens. Courtney J. Stevenson, honors. Owen Neal Stevens. Caitlin Stout. Andrew Charles Sullivan. Imani Natalie Sullivan, honors. Cadence Renee Talbert. Cassidy Wright Taylor, high honors. Carolina Michelle Talato, honors. Joshua Landon Turrell. Alexander Joseph Toole. Adele Grace Tilden, high honors. Hannah Lee Towers, high honors. Ava Sophia Trachtenberg. Emma Elizabeth Burton, high honors. Bella Romay Guerrero, honors. Jesus Ivan Valencia Huitran, high honors. Valeria Valentina Vasquez. Madison Nicole Vita, high honors. Taylor Daniel von Vrenkur. Alexis Tia Wathen. Mackenzie Jordan Westoncow. Reese Leonard White, honors. Jackson Charles Wilhoit. Devonay Alejandra Williams. Lisa Nicole Williams. Charlize Madison Whitholtz. Miette Thompson Woolworth. Gabrielle Kate Yetzer. Sarah Ann Young, high honors. Aspen Cachet Young Harris, honors. Charlotte Grace Sicardi. Taylin Zelenskas, honors. Nicholas Paul Zizzo. Amelia Catherine Stearns Anderson. Andrew Michael Bailey. Alexis Evelyn Baird. Ashley Victoria Bacos, honors. Lillian McKenna Balance. Jonathan Ballard. Dara Nicole Balter. Evan Michael Barron. Gracie Barentine, high honors. Morgan Ansel Bauer, honors. Kelsey Ann Beal. Elise Nicole Benson. Lucas Berlund, high honors. Liam Baker Bachach. Emma Morgan Biddle. Talia Beninda, honors. Tari Erica Lynn Blaisdell. Tate Shannon Bost. Joseph Matthew Bowen Simonik. Olivia Rose Bowers, honors. Abigail Marine Breitenbach. Jacob M. Bridges. Lindsay Sargent Briggs, honors. Kiana Lee Bright, honors. Annika Madison Woods Bronson. Sophia Noel Bukovich. Jackson Crockett Butler. Benjamin Baird Carroll, honors. Jay Ripken Cheever. Sebastian Anthony Chin. Trevor Hugh Clare. Jada Camille Clark. Ryan Matthew Coffey. Georgia Isabel Cox, high honors. Ahmad Damad Crawford. Prudence Marie Criscolo, honors. Miriam Gafour Crisp, high honors. Rosalie Kirsten Crookshank, high honors. Julia Delaney Doms. Brock Randolph Dalton. Cole Ariel Damon, honors. Sydney Rylan Dandridge. Tabitha Nicole DeMoro. Dylan Cole Demir. August John Dewell, honors. Karen Eby, high honors. Jamie H. Edwards I. Madison Josephine Inman, high honors. Rachel Kathleen Flickinger, high honors. Connor Austin Flynn, honors. Jacob Addison Franklin. Aiden Ryan Gable. Emma Louise Garland. Darcy Eden George. Victoria Grace Germany, high honors. Caitlin Alexandra Delnewen Glover, honors. Juliana Nicole Goad, honors. Alex John Gordon. Mia A. Greco. Sophie Glee Greenwood. Bella Maud Holly. Emma Rain Hayward. Ella Marie Henderson. Thrall James Hirschberger. Nicholas Alexander Hess, high honors. John Henry Higgins, honors. Nicolina Aaron Hill, honors. John Michael Hilliard. Natalia J. Hinks. Jessica Hughes, high honors. Abigail Olivia Hunt. Aubrey James Inman. Theodora Jean Anuhea Jacobson, high honors. Michael Hiroshi Tuzuki Jerome. Hans North Johnson. Laura Elise Jostler, high honors. Anna Sophia Juarez Mora, high honors. Avi Kapular, honors. Cassandra Elizabeth Carno, high honors. Abigail Rose Kauke, high honors. Noah Holden Kazansky. Celeste Elizabeth Kelly. Elizabeth Claire Kent, honors. Naveed August Kianpur. Michaela Sue Knowlton. James Patrick Knudsen, high honors. Lily Kosha, high honors. Martina Maria Kowalska, high honors. Casey Lynn Krig, honors. Mackenzie Elizabeth Lanier. Sydney Taylor Lashley. Helena Bertha Lewis. Catherine Sarah Lehman, high honors. Kiara Lo Cicero, honors. Zachariah James Lorient, high honors. Addison Catherine Love, honors. Calvin Lee McDonald, honors. Ellen Sue Malone, high honors. Ruben Garcia Margalies. Stephen Tyler Massey, honors. Bryce Bassam Maslum. Haley Elaine McCartney, high honors. Madison Jane McCune, high honors. Dina Marie McFadden. Taryn Christopher McNally, honors. Morgan Elizabeth Metello. Isabella Jean Mikali, high honors. Catherine Virginia Milano. Andrew James Miller. Taylor Ray Miller. Kylie Misdorp, high honors. Ali Rebecca Smilo Mishkin. Christian Montes Dioca. Ashley Elizabeth Morak. Catherine Valentine Murray, high honors. Jordan Doyle Musara. Jordan Michelle Nace. William Forrest Naylor Kamyati, high honors. Tally Rain Nesvold. Trinity Kyle Newell, honors. Mason May Nesbitt, honors. Kinajuku Jake Naji. Kimberly Nicole Novak. Keiji Augusto Okamura, high honors. Mariana Olivares Selly, high honors. Elizabeth Ann Oliver, honors. Maxim Drake Oliver. Alina Elizabeth Only. Monique Orozco. Eden Lee Pardo, high honors. Sophie Elizabeth Parks. Kylie Renee Patton. Eliza Catherine Patty. Sydney McKeon Paul, high honors. Andrew Francis Pence, high honors. Anna Madeline Plavarnik. Daniel Evan Pollock. Sophie Ning Pomeranke, honors. Holland Joseph Post. Mauriciosa Haley Marie Potesic Botero. Potesic Botero. June Pottinger, honors. Signe Elizabeth Renstrom, high honors. Alexandria Leanne Richter, honors. Emily Rose Robinson, high honors. Tricity Lynn Ross. Simone Kayla Ruckman. Angela Joy Rudd. Holden Ryu. Jenna Louise Schell. Paige Nicole Schneider. Carmen N. South. Jordan Leanne Sergi, high honors. Kendall Aaron Sewell Murphy. Anna Bennett Seymour. Thomas Arthur Shepard, honors. Madeline Claire Shepard, honors. Noah Cameron Shubin, honors. Vincent Tagliarino Shook. Colton Philip Smith. Danica Louise Ann Smith. Rachel Ann Smith, high honors. Blake Faherty Smullen. Brody Hugo Solomon. Kevin Riley Starnes. Ella Stone. Olivia Grace Stortz. Connor Joseph Strite. Sophie Jane Strock. Haley Mae Sullivan, high honors. Sydney Grace Taft Cole, high honors. Eliana Genevieve Tenache, high honors. Haley Nicole Thomas, high honors. Carissa Titus, honors. Kaylee May Koch, honors. Irini Zoe Tomasatos. Jackson Tate Tunheim. Jack Van Gundy, honors. Isabella Margaret Van Leer. Paul Michael Vituli. Angelina Jane Wagner. David James Wallstetter. Aiden Joseph Webster, high honors. Gabriel Edward Weichert. Jenna Ann Wiseman, high honors. Ellis Grace West, honors. Cole Amin Wetzel, Canada. Stephen Michael Wyrock. Helen Margaret Williams, honors. Aubrey Darlene Wilson. Josephine Catherine Whitling. Liza Anna Maria Wolf, high honors. Jenna Marie Kissel. Rowan Hopkins Weiss. Sophia Marie Yother, honors. Jaylee May Barnes. Sean Colin Bazzini Crothers. Eliza Catherine Dunbar, high honors. Cooper Michael Huxama. Brooke Ann Long, high honors. Kada McKenna Schweitzer. Haley Jane Trapp.
New graduates, upon your enrollment at Eckerd College, you were handed an Eckerd Medallion commemorating the beginning of your college career. And today, we handed you your diploma to end it. The first was a gift, the second was earned. Graduates, you have arrived at this day of celebration by various paths. We hope that your time at Eckerd College and the education and experiences that you have had here have prepared you for a life of ceaseless change, generous service, and moral courage. We will know by the lives you lead if we have succeeded. As you march off today to lives of imagination, service, and discovery, remember all those who have helped you get to this great day. Your parents, family members, friends, and loved ones, mentors and teachers, and your Eckerd family of faculty, staff, and fellow students. Of course, in the end, what you will most remember of your experiences of Eckerd College will be the community you were a part of, the very special community of learning, exploration, discussion, debate, and service, a place full of deep and lasting friendships with extraordinary teachers and enthusiastic learners. So I say hail and farewell, the old Roman salute. Hail to the imagination and heart you bring to create the future. Farewell to your life here as students who have felt, I hope, not only well tutored, but also well loved. We will miss you. Cardinal John Henry Newman, wrote in The Idea of a University. A university is an alma mater, knowing her children one by one, not a foundry or a mint or a treadmill, one by one, each student an individual. Eckerd College, a school for free thinkers and nonconformists whose graduates change the world. And as you leave us today to pursue lives of meaning and accomplishment, remember that Eckerd will always remain your home. Please resolve to stay engaged with one another and to return often to our beloved College by the Sea. After the recessional, we invite everyone to gather on the field for refreshments and a chance to say goodbye. As the bearer of the mace leads our recessional, would all please rise as they are able. Our ceremony is now ended.